This is Gaming in the Basement, and I'm RockAGoth. Today I'm hanging in the basement with Devil Billy Kazama. Before we get into it, a word from our new sponsor. Mishima Industries brings the greatest and latest technology right into your home. The global leader in mobile robotics has announced a business venture into the culinary universe to bring you Tekken Chicken. They said their chicken is tasty and tender, so tasty and tender you'll do a reversal in no time and come back for seconds. Bring one home tonight. Alright, I've got questions. Why would a robotics company make chicken? Who's getting us these sponsors? Anyway, next up is Devil Billy Kazama. So can you give me a brief introduction about who you are?
Well, I'm pretty much just a avid video gamer. I go by the name Devil Billy Kazama. That name was first created back around the whole Tekken 5 era. This was like so long ago. Yeah, this was when they were introducing the arcade cabinets that you can actually plug in your own PlayStation 2 controller, which was a very nifty idea.
So is Tekken 5 like your first Tekken game?
Actually, it is Tekken 2 from back in the day. I moved around when I was like very little. I was in New York for a bit, but I was originally born in Jersey. I moved around to New York, back to Jersey, a little bit of Canada, a little bit of Florida, until I eventually made it to California. I saw one of my mom's relatives was just playing this really interesting game on the Sony PlayStation 1, and I saw Tekken 2 for the first time, and I was really enamored with it.
So would you say like Tekken 2 is like your favorite Tekken, or do you have like a favorite Tekken?
I would say Tekken 2 is actually my absolute favorite. There was a lot of good things that came with it. There was a practice mode that, although most of the characters were basically kind of moving around in a 2D-ish type of platform in a 3D realm, there was no sidestepping or anything yet. Some of the characters struck out to me, like Lei Long off of the Tekken 2 demo, Jun Kazama. I started looking at San and a few others.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I didn't know some of those characters go all the way back to Tekken 2. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they even had some pretty interesting cheat codes you can put on there, like this first person over the shoulder wire fighting mode. And you're still, if you're on the player one side, you tap right on the controller to move forward, you tap left, and then vice versa on the opposite side. There was the big heads cheat mode, and there was a very interesting secret that once you get through stage three, if you were to defeat your opponent and get a great, the announcer says it, you would fight off against either Roger or Alex. So that was one of the pretty cool types of characters to unlock.
That's pretty neat. I remember cheat codes. They don't really do it so much anymore, but do you have like a favorite cheat code to like any game you've ever played? I know that's a tough
That comes
question.
down.
Is there one that just comes off the top of your head?
Well, because we live in such a very expensive world, I'd probably have to say infinite money.
Oh, yeah.
Money comes down to so many games. I mean, I've used Game Shark a long time ago. I think the very first one I had was like Game Shark CDX. Then I had like Codebreaker and then Action Replay. Most of it was just based off of going into action RPGs and some other ones like that that require you to do so much traveling. So I'd say infinite money because you want to get like a really good head start on your big journey. You want to make sure you're 100% prepped up and ready to go. Then I guess the second would be like the quick level up game. So you know exactly what your characters, or if you are training monsters or anything like that, like let's say Pokemon, you want to figure out what their moves are. At least it gives you like a bigger idea of what to do when you are confident enough in not using cheats anymore.
Okay, I think the infinite currency is like that's a really good one. Like you can use that across like many games. So how long have you been gaming?
I would say since like 5 or 6 years old, I used to have one of those Ataris with like the really old school joysticks and the little wiring antenna piece attached to like the one of the ends of the controller. That was like my very first console, I believe. Eventually, I got my hands on a Sony PlayStation. I just been playing on that one, moving up over time.
Okay. So it's been a while.
Oh yeah.
Do you primarily play on console, or are you a PC gamer, or a little bit of both?
When I was younger, I actually did have like a really old school PC. I think this was around when Windows 98 was a thing. I used to play quite a lot of PC-based games like Hexen, Duke Nukem, Heretic. There was Mortal Kombat 3 as a demo. There was also There's very interesting interactive Disney sets of games like The Lion King, Aladdin, some stuff that was originally on a way older, really, really older console. And then it also found its way over to PC. So primarily I am mainly console, but I have had plans of wanting to return to the PC life because I got too many people that are still asking me to play games with them Tekken wise on
Yeah, that
there.
was going to be my guess. It was probably Tekken people.
Mainly on Twitch, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you come up with your name?
Well, it's relatively the interesting story, like I told you about the Tekken 5 vanilla arcade machine, where you put your PlayStation controller, you get your ID card, and all of that. I originally came up with it in Tekken 5 when Devil Jin actually was a playable character. Now you have like two versions of Jin, the Tekken 4 version of him, which is the straight karate, and then you have the Tekken 3 version, which is the fight style that Devil Jin had. So I was relatively more well versed with what Devil Jin had, even though he was still like regular Jin. I just came up with the devil part, my Billy name. It's kind of like a little nickname people usually call me, and then I put in a Kazama last because incidentally, I happen to have quite a liking towards the story up until five.
Uh-huh.
Then when six and seven started coming out, the story kind of like dimmed. It kind of felt more watered down to me, but I still kept the name nonetheless.
Okay.
And that just became my overall spiel. And I also, and this is something that a lot of players will definitely recognize. I actually tried to put in my full name on this really old school website called Tekken Zaibatsu.
What type of stuff is on the website?
It had a lot of things to where, and this is like during the early ages of the internet compared to nowadays where everything is 100% accessible with like YouTube and all. We had a lot of dedicated players actually try to build out forums and try to get everybody into one particular one-stop hub.
Mhm.
Especially some of the Korean players and the Japanese players, they also created their accounts to try to reach out to people. There was like a huge, huge scene in regards to like the early Tekkens, like Tag 1 going into Tekken 4 and Tekken 5. People were doing like combo exhibitions, they were doing like small little tutorials. They were trying to show off most of their skills and then try to get themselves to like the tournaments. There was a lot of building that had to go into that one, plus a section for fan art and official art and things of that nature. So there
So
was
it's like
something for everybody there.
it was kind of like the Discord of the 90s.
Early 2000s, if I had to
Okay.
be cordially fair with
Oh
that.
yeah, that makes more sense. So what about the Tekken 6 and 7 storyline didn't you like?
I think after like the first impression, like there's a war going on between Jin and Kazuya. You know, Heihachi's around there. There was the introduction of some of the newer characters like Leo, Zafina, Bob. They were all people that I didn't have like a very big impression of until I actually played the console version of Tekken 6. And I'm like, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense. But at the same time, it's like Jin's not even inherently evil. I don't think he's should be done like that because he has always been inherently evil. Heihachi's always behind the scenes and he's always doing things to make sure that he's the top dog out of the entire Mishima Kazama family line. Tekken 7 is just basically the same thing. You just plaster more characters and then just making the whole Civil War kind of thing. It kind of felt like a Marvel film rather than like an actual Tekken thing. Because I think that's exactly what they're going to do with Tekken 8. They're
Yeah.
going to make it an even further Civil War kind of thing.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think so too. And I do wish they would invest a little bit more in the story because there's characters like you don't even really know about that they didn't really delve into.
Right?
Yeah.
Like when you look at Tekken 7 versus Tekken 6's story mode, Tekken 7 just has like a little. It focuses so much on the Mishima family line. You've got Akuma that's taking a really big pivotal part. Kazumi's in it, and then you have Yahachi, Jin. It's like mostly in hiding, trying to recover until like the very end of things. And then you have Kazuya. You got the father son kind of thing with Heihachi and Kazuya going on, and then you have like the little side book of chapters for all the characters, and they're only just given like one fight between one another. I think there's one regarding Paul and Kuma, which is the classic, I believe. But no, Paul and Panda for some reason. Then you've got Kuma and Josie. And most of them are just kind of like splashed on there. Like there's not 100% detail, and most of them became like less of what they honestly, were when they was first announced in the previous games. So it's like they are all jobbers when they really aren't. They're a lot more than that. Should have put more focus on that one. With Tekken 6's scenario campaign, you originally start off as Lars and Elisa, but as you go, you unlock your very first character that you can play throughout the entire campaign. And then you go through all of these character gates slash mapping points, and then you just beat them, and then eventually you unlock them. With Deviljin being at a area called the Nightmare Train, and you got to beat him to supposedly unlock him for scenario campaign. And most of their interactions, although they are mostly dialogues in text box format, most of them still have like bits and pieces of history of how they interacted from the very beginning up until now. Like they'll actually say stuff like for Lei Wulong, for example. He will basically go to Feng Wei's temple, and he still hasn't forgiven Feng for attacking dojos all across. And that just lets you know that there is still that dynamic, the little pieces of chemistry between sets of characters. And most of their interactions could be funny, it could be serious, it could be casual, neutral, it could be anything. And honestly, I think I like that part more than the Tekken 7's version of the whole story mode, how they did it. It just felt like they watered down the whole experience and just focused mainly on Machina's, which is okay. You know, it's a driven focus since like the very first Tekken, but I think they could have done a little better in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of new to Tekken, so I'm kind of trying to figure out the story, and I've been watching like documentaries on it, and you can see as the documentaries like progress through the games, there's kind of like less and less back history, and that's kind of like what I want. Like I want to know what's going on.
So for anybody that's literally getting into it, most of the potential reader's digest would be off of the Wikipedia, or they call it like Tekkenpedia. Now, keep in mind, some of the facts themselves can be twisted a little bit to what a fan's theory could possibly be. Like, for example, Unknown is basically from Tekken 1 is supposed to originally be Jun Kazama's cousin or sister. In Tag 2, it's more confirmed that Unknown is actually Jun's evil side. And how you know this is in tag one, you see the wolf spirit that's like a phantom or some type of an apparition, if you will, that's actually behind the character model for Unknown, or in this case, Evil June. And that wolf spirit is actually controlling Unknown altogether to do all of the moves. With tag two, it's more like you get a evil personified version of June with her move set with some added bonuses. So you don't do the character mimicking thing like Mokujin or Combat would in the earlier installments of Tekken, like Tekken 3 and Tekken 4. But Mokujin still keeps the random movement set as you would see in Tag 2 with some limitations.
So are you at all like nervous about Jun's return to Tekken 8?
No, actually, I'm looking forward to seeing her again because I know a lot of people were relatively hurt that she was only there for essentially 2 to 3 games if you count the tag games altogether. Like the tag games alone are basically non-canon. The only time they had legitimately seen June was back in Tekken 2, and then you have Asuka in Tekken 5, which is supposed to be like a brasher clone of June, but I'm more looking forward to seeing her in Tekken 8 because she's been gone for literally so long. The tag games don't really count. But the fact that she is over there gives a little bit of a fan service to the fans that really liked who June was. Why did she meet up with Kazuya? Why did they have Jin? And then just so on. So it kind of like nets everything and it like comes all full circle.
It feels like it's going to have a really unique dynamic that we were missing in the last couple of games.
Agreed.
So you mentioned that you played some action adventure games. What types of games do you just generally play?
Lately, I've been getting into Monster Hunter Rise, but I played quite a bit of Monster Hunter before. Going off of my list of other sets of games, like I played my fair share of Resident Evil, some of the Yakuza games, even though some of the elements can be a bit RPG-ish. I used to have a lot of fascination with some of the Final Fantasies, once again RPG, but there are some installments that actually cater more towards an action side, like Crisis Core back on the PSP days and whatnot.
Do you have any like favorite games that you'd like to mention?
I definitely do want to mention that the original Resident Evil 2 always has a place in my heart because that was one of the first horror games I ever came across when I was a kid. They used to call GameStop Land, but I remember a time when I actually was scared super stiff when I didn't know how to play the game, and then all the zombies just started coming out of nowhere and then just started attacking Leon and, died and all that. Let out quite a bit of a shrieking scream right in the mall.
Oh no.
That was quite
Uh-oh.
an adventure for me because when you introduce these types of games and genres to like a little kid, the little kid's not going to understand anything. They're just going to like try to ask questions so they can get a better understanding, and then later on in life, they'll replay the same things so that they can be like, "Oh, so this is exactly what happened. So now I
Yeah.
understand."
It must have been terrifying. Those games were pretty revolutionary for when they came out.
Oh yeah. They set quite the role. They basically paved the way to what we see now in basic video games. So if you actually wanted to do like a little retro trip or something like that, and you don't really have like the consoles and whatnot, YouTube's basically your time capsule. So you can just kind of see exactly everything that went on, and then you have Google for like the actual history of when it was developed and who was on it, who were the voice actors, who contributed to the models and everything.
YouTube is a big resource. Even like walkthroughs, they pretty much took out like the whole walkthrough business. You used to be able to buy published walkthroughs for everything, but now you can just look it up. Like, why would you? You know?
I mean, there's that, and then if you go through Amazon or eBay, you can just look up the strategy guides. Granted, they do cost quite a bit, like $30 or so, but back then they were like roughly 19.99, 17.99 for like an established book. I remember some of the strategy guides, publishers like Brady Games and Prima Games. Those two basically had covers of just about every general title that I can think of. Like one of
Yeah.
them happened to be Ghost ID 2, for example, and that one was a Squaresoft game back in the day. Nowadays, it's just called Square Enix, the
Oh, yeah.
company.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of miss strategy guides, like just looking at the artwork, and sometimes they give you little tidbits in them too that you wouldn't normally know.
Yeah, but nowadays you can just go straight through YouTube and you find out all the little tips and tricks, the little nuances and all, but
That's
nothing
true.
really beats having a chance to read through. Hey, as reading material, go through the bathroom, flip through the pages, and just come back to the game if you're playing it. It's
Yeah.
always fun.
So, did you have a chance to play the Resident Evil 2 remaster?
Yeah, I actually platinumed it several years ago.
Do you have any thoughts on how it is compared to the original?
Aside from like the voice actors, there's a lot of elements that they did try to keep on there, and then they just kind of spin it off a little bit in regards to like the context of, the zombies and everything. Well, like I said, it'll always have a place in my heart, but when it comes down to the remake, the developers, Capcom, actually did try to pack in as much replayable content in there compared to the Resident Evil 3 remake, and that's just like a sour taste in my mouth.
So, what made you get involved in streaming?
Well, I originally started back in 2013, 2014. I was messing around with my PlayStation 3 a lot. I eventually picked up from Best Buy this Hauppauge HD PVR2 that you just connect to your laptop, and you have an internet connection and everything, and you just make your account on Twitch. I just slowly started finding myself wanting to just do some streaming and just have a little bit of fun, like make a little hobby.
So, how would you describe your streaming style?
Pretty unorthodox because of the time constraints I have with my jobs. Since I work 6 days a week, it's really hard to come up with like a streaming schedule, opposed to what I did before, which was like stream at least 2 or 3 days out of the week. And this was like last year. So returning back to it, it's more like a consistency kind of thing.
Can you tell us a bit about your streaming journey?
Leading to the whole journey part, it's like I was talking about with the working 6 days a week, having one day off. It's like the whole journey itself is nothing but hard work. You have to know exactly what you're doing with your video games. You want to be able to talk to your peoples, anybody that just want to stop by and just relax. It's like back in 2013, 2014, I was just basically playing and I didn't have much of like a goal or an ambition. Like last year to the year before that, I just wanted to get back into streaming again and just basically have fun. By the time that I started getting some small little infamy from the whole Tekken stuff and post Borderlands and Resident Evil and things of that nature, I slowly started getting people that wanted to jump in. Like I didn't have to make much of an effort now as opposed to back then. But I would say journeys wise, I guess I kind of grew up and I leveled up over time. I just can't
Yeah.
wait to do that again throughout like the course of the year as time allows, of course.
Do you have a favorite stream that you like to think back on?
I actually have like about three of them, but
Right.
if
You
I
can
had
tell us
to
about
choose,
all of them.
sure. So, I mean, obviously there's the whole Tekken streams. I don't really pay too much attention to like if I'm gonna be catering to somebody, I just let loose and have fun, blow the steam, especially if I'm coming back from like a bad day at work. I just want to remove that element completely, remove that vibe. So I just want to go in and give my energy and then just have a little bit of fun. If I'm able to go ahead and like do a little bit of interaction with the viewers, I could do just that. And, you know, I don't have any high expectations of them actually coming in. They don't have any high expectations coming out of me. So it just boils down to like having a pretty chill kind of stream. Like anytime that I would be doing some Tekken, there's at least one or two people that are 100% interested in seeing what is it that I do, especially since I play on pad, DualShock 4 controller, if you will. Some of the other streams, like games that I don't normally play, whatever it is I have on the system, I would just do some form of narration or some type of commentary or anything of the sort. And then these guys, they start relaxing. They get into like this read me like a bedtime story kind of thing. I would read dialogue and I would just go around and picked out some of these things with some of the famous actors back in the day, their mannerisms, like Gilbert Gottfried, who did the voice of Iago in Aladdin.
That's
And
funny.
yeah, good times all around. And then some of the other times is when I'm probably going to host like a tournament, or if I'm doing like a giveaway, which I did my very first one. When I reached 300 followers, I basically took money out of my own pocket and I started doing all of this manipulation to do giveaways, trying to remind people, hey, come on over, I'm doing this giveaway. So some of them were looking forward to it. Some of them just popped in. The rest of them just didn't really care. They wanted to just chill out. I plan on doing another one of those ways, but I don't know personally just yet when that will be. But I'm looking forward to doing another.
What's the biggest mistake you think a streamer can make?
Would you say for like a recurring or like a newcomer?
I guess with a newcomer or just their channel in general or some kind of technology they're using.
Expecting followers to show up just because they're live. Like I said before, it takes a whole lot of work to get yourself on notice, especially if you want to become like an affiliate or a partner for that matter. My biggest advice is play how you want, not because you're expecting people or just because it happens to be a very popular game, like let's say Fortnite. Just play your game, and even if nobody's watching you, play anyway because you want to go ahead. If it's something that you can do and enjoy at the same time, whether or not the followers and the viewers show up should be your first key goal. Just have fun when you go on the platform. Play your title, even if it's not popular. The viewers will show up because they all have different types of demographics, different types of tastes and interests. Not everybody's going to be jumping in on Tekken 7 or Tekken 8 when that comes out. No one's going to be jumping in on Dead by Daylight or Dead by Daylight or even Fortnite or any of those other types of popular games that is mainly mainstream. Just relax. Yeah. The followers, the views, the subs, all that stuff will come in due time. But if you're not having a good time, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that newcomers or those that are recurring tend to make the most. It doesn't always have to involve like hardware or software, but doing a little bit of research every now and then between the hardware and software that you use, especially if there could be updates or things, definitely helps out over time.
So, what are your goals and your vision with your Twitch community and channel?
When I first started, I wanted to get all my fair share of viewers and all that other stuff. Like I told you regarding that mistake, I made that mistake long, long ago, so I just moved past it. What I intend on doing with my Twitch channel is I plan on doing more interactions, more streams, and eventually make partner at some point when that ever happens. Because right now, I made it to affiliate sometime last year with everybody's support and love, which I gotta give them a whole lot of love and support back. Community wise, I do plan on wanting to reach out to more games besides like Tekken. I want to be able to support other people trying to do like single player games, some puzzle games. I want to be able to like bridge the gap to say that yes, I am a variety streamer. I'm going to stick to that goal. And as time allows,
I want to be a little bit more involved in like collab with other people and make some really nifty projects happen. Just even if it's not Twitch streaming, just be involved and just be around and have fun while doing so.
What's something that you've had to overcome as a streamer?
Time constraints. That is literally one of my biggest things I've ever had to work with, and I'm still undergoing that one to this day. So trying to find like a extreme balance between personal life and streaming time wise is always going to be the biggest determining factor because not everybody's going to be able to stream like 24/7 even if they do have a consistent schedule. Sometimes they just can't do it because things do come up in life. I'd say over time, one of the other obstacles that definitely got me was, funding for most of the equipment and stuff I have right now. Being able to provide a little bit extra pizzazz to some of the stream.
For sure, like equipment is a big one and time is a big one. You don't realize how long it takes to set up stuff until you're actually doing it. And then next thing you know, like half the day is gone and you're just like, well, I have these 20 other things I need to do.
I think one of the biggest takeaways in regards to the whole second part of overcoming on the whole stream journey is if you're able to pick a day, or at least 2 days at best, a 7 day a week schedule, you can dedicate one full day to yourself, and then you can take like a third or at least half of the following day just to go ahead and stream before you go right back to work. As the daily grind definitely doesn't stop for anybody. Throughout all the perilous journeys and challenges I've had so far, I'm pretty happy where I'm at so far.
Like you said earlier, finding balance. That's a really tough one that you don't really think about until you start streaming.
Yeah, and most people just kind of jump in head first and they don't really tend to think about the consequences later on, which can definitely rear its ugly head. But as long as you have given yourself enough cushion to try to do these kinds of things, this also includes, even doing music, because you can somewhat end up having so much fun that you lost track of time. You're supposed to go to work the following day or go to school or pick somebody up. They give you numerous phone calls and all that other stuff, and then wow, all that time passed. Time flies when you're having fun. And then
Yeah.
reality splashes you a bunch of cold water and tells you to wake up and like, hey, you have obligations. Please don't forget that.
What's something you think is very important and a core principle to your streaming philosophy?
See, if it boils down to something, it's always honesty.
Hmm.
You wanna let your viewers know that hey, I won't be able to do these kinds of things if you're looking for this particular game that I don't particularly have. You might have to be a little patient. You'll have to wait a little while. If you're cool with that and you're cool with me playing these kinds of things for the time being, you're more than welcome to chillax with me because that's the biggest important thing. If your viewers are relaxed and they're entertained and they're engaged, that is basically the plus because it lets them know that they can just come visit you whenever they want. The expectation of having them show up every single stream that you're on is not something that I would condone. Philosophy wise, don't come with so many expectations that you're just gonna completely lose it on stream one day and then you're just gonna scare everybody. It's much the same thing with life in general. You want to come up with some expectations, but you don't want to you want to set the bar too high that you can't even climb it, and you don't want to go ahead and point the finger at anybody just because something didn't go your way. You want to take your time, as I said. You want to build up, and as as soon as you start doing that, everything starts slowly clicking with you. The right type of people will start showing up. Even if it's your friends for like maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days, they don't show up the next following 2, 3 days. It's okay. You have to understand that people have lives outside of Twitch.
So you said you didn't condone people coming to your stream all the time. Did you want to talk a bit more about that?
To clarify that one, I don't condone having people wanting to constantly show up 24/7 in for myself as an expectation. I want them to be able to jump in from stream to stream if they like. If they wanted to come and relax on mine, I 100% allow it. It's perfectly fine. You just relax and chillax, and I'll take it from here. I don't want to go ahead and force people to go ahead and just come to my stream just because it might be like the hottest thing. Like I might have 60 viewers or something, or I might have like a sponsor or whatever just show up out of nowhere and have all those expectations of, hey, these guys followed me. I'm gonna send them a whisper or whatnot, like, hey, come here, come on. I'm doing Discord. I'm on Discord. Come on, come to my stream. all that stuff. No, I don't want to force the idea that you have to be there. Even if you might be assigned a mod, there's things that you have to do, like you have to take care of your family, you have to go do your job, or you have schooling, you have all these other things. I don't want to take that from you. I don't want to take your liberties away. I want you to have your liberties, and I want you to come in at your own pace.
That's a really good expectation to have of your viewers. As who used to watch streams before streaming, I think I used to have people who would pressure me to keep coming. And then you're just setting a burden or an expectation on somebody when they don't really deserve it.
Yeah, and in the long term, in the long run, that just basically breaks up the whole reason of why you guys were basically hanging out to begin with. It's no different than a high school thing. Like you have all these cliques and whatnot. You you join one, and now, oh, hey, they want you to join them at this table every time at lunch when you couldn't really do that. You know, you might have to go to the hospital for a checkup. You got to take care of certain things around the house. You got to miss school because you're sick. You know, placing those types of expectations doesn't do anybody any good. And like I said, that kind of thing can definitely go ahead and toxify the whole relationship that you were trying to have with said person, especially if you both happen to be friends and you guys decide to stream at the same time.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be there. It's perfectly fine. Just you have to learn to let that go.
I think subsequently you also might want to set boundaries with your viewers so they're
Mhm.
not taking up too much of your personal time if it's not while you're streaming. Like if they want to play a game with you, for instance.
Yeah, I agree. The whole setting the boundaries is literally one of the biggest nuances that you want to try to have or try to at least learn how to do. Because at some point, you're going to come across so many challenges that you're not going to be able to stream. You might even want to think about Twitch. You might want to take a break. You want to take care of other things like other passions, other hobbies. You know, it's perfectly fine. We're all human. We only have like so much time to do so many of these things before we can't do them no more.
I agree with that 100%. So, what are your thoughts on the current state of video games?
The current is, I'd say most of it falls under a lot of heavy expectations, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. So much hype and under delivered promises. Like, okay, if you start talking about like a triple A title, it's supposed to have all of these things, but due to development costs and time frames and things of that nature, things projects can get pushed back so bad that when they finally do release it, the game is not exactly what they had wanted to release. There's so many bugs and glitches and things of that nature that when the people buy on day one, they end up so disappointed that they just don't want to touch it anymore. They want a refund, and they want to wash that bad taste out the mouth. The experiences from most of the gaming in this day and age is a little skewed. So most of the time you have all these avid gamers, avid customers and collectors of memorabilia for these sets of franchises. They are always looking forward to the next installment, and then the developers underdeliver on their promise for delivering such a experience that they were looking so forward to. Like trailers, most of the time will capture you to the point where they've reeled you in and then they deliver something else and makes the game so unplayable. Like one good example would be the Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
I have gone through so many reviews, and some of my buddies were basically playing the game, even on the hardest difficulties. They felt like the game could use so much more tweaking. This basically kind of like it. I kind of don't like it. The enemies are kind of unfair. They could bully just like the RE2 remake on the hardest difficulty, like hardcore. You got to really know your dodges. You got to know how much your ammo count is. And even by then, you still get robbed by a problem with the movement, the dodging, the things that weren't 100% addressed before the game released is what leaves a lot of bad taste in all these players and customers' mouths. You can release so many trailers for so many other games that's supposed to come out this year, later on in the year, maybe next year. And really, most of these guys that have been your fans and everything like that get the slap in the face. Some of them, even before then, would just tell the developers if they could, or if they were a developer themselves, which most of them would want to be or wish they are, would say, let's take a step back. Let's go ahead and try to
introduce all of the things that we got going on in the planning board, in the quality of life stage. Let's fine tune everything. Let's make sure that the beta testers are actually doing their jobs and catching every single bug that they can before we release it out to the public. Because that's exactly what happened with RE3 Remake as well. There was quite a few number of bugs. There was also the same thing with Far Cry 6. The weapon wheel doesn't work, glitching through the floors, dying out of nowhere, losing progress, especially on a save. These types of things, they have to be addressed before you 100% release it into the public, or at least try to in a very time constrained type of fashion, because you have all these investors that want their money back and so on. There's like so many factors that tie into what I would say the current modern day of gaming is like. Be ready to have some very low expectations for some of these high AAA titles that's supposed to come out or were talked about several years ago. You want to make sure that if you are going to buy this game, at least wait at least a week or two after the release so that you know exactly what you're getting into. You're not wasting your money. That could have gone straight to food. Once again, multiple factors and variables that just make things a walking eggshell or a landmine that you don't want to step on. That's how I would honestly say it. Like, don't deliver so many promises that you can't keep, and then just be wary about all these games that do come out. Just keep your expectation low and just wait it out a little bit. If it goes on sale, nab it. Let everybody get their hands on it and do their reviews and all that. All that is perfectly fine. Let them do what they want to do and focus more on yourself.
I hope you've enjoyed part 1 and come back for part 2. Please show him some support by following him on Twitch. My music today was brought to you by DJ Kern. Many thanks for taking the time to listen and share. Without your support, I wouldn't be doing this. Until next time, keep gaming.
Or actually, on the plus side, I was doing this to one stream with Grand Theft Auto Vice City, right? Remember what I told you about the whole voice narration and all that? A buddy of mine actually wanted me to talk as if I was a radio talk show host and talk as if I was actually in the radio. So I used Fever 105 with the really cool radio talk show guy that was playing some really nifty music like Juicy Fruit. So I just took like a couple lines from him and then I made it my own. And then on Discord, I shared with him some of that, and then he turned it into a little bit of a song for like 20 seconds. And I actually have the MP3 file.
It's really cool.